You know that feeling when you find a small, local brand you just absolutely love, and then, years later, you see it on a shelf halfway across the world? Well, how does that actually happen? Today, we're going to unpack the amazing story of GI Fada, an Italian ice cream company, and trace their incredible journey from a local favorite to a global powerhouse. We're going to break down the exact playbook they used, starting with the big question that kicked it all off.
Yeah, really, how does that happen? I can tell you it's not some kind of magic trick, and it definitely doesn't happen overnight. What it is a series of really smart strategic moves, where each step builds on the one before it. And honestly, GI's story is the perfect blueprint for how it's done.
So our story kicks off in Italy with Gianna Palozzi, who's the marketing manager at GI. And like a lot of great companies, GI just started with a fantastic local product. They were pretty much focused on their home turf, Italy, until one day, the rest of the world just came knocking on their door, completely out of the blue.
This quote right here, this is the exact moment everything changed for them. I mean, just imagine it. You're running your business, and suddenly you're getting orders from a country where you have zero presence. That's a huge signal that you've got something special. And for GI, it was the spark that lit the fuse on their entire global journey.
Okay, so GI gets these surprising orders. What do? Well, they didn't just rush out and build a factory in Scandinavia. No, they took a really cautious, really intelligent first step. A low-risk strategy that was perfect for just, testing the international waters.
They started with something called Indirect Export. The easiest way to think about this is like hiring a local expert, an agent on the ground who already knows the customers, the stores, the culture, all of it. GI provides the ice cream, and the agent handles all the sales stuff over there.
And the whole process was just beautifully simple. GI got to focus on what they do best, which is making amazing ice cream back in Italy. Meanwhile, their agents in Scandinavia took care of the local sales. It created this super effective chain that let them expand without a ton of risk or a massive investment.
And guess what? It totally worked. Sales started to climb, and as they did, so did GI's confidence. They pretty quickly realized that to keep growing, they needed to have a bit more control over their brand abroad. And that meant it was time for their strategy to evolve.
So their next phase was direct export, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. This time, they cut out the middleman. GI started managing all of its international sales directly from their headquarters in Italy, which gave them way more control over their brand, their marketing, and of course, their profits.
But, more control always means more work, a lot more work. And this one little detail says it all. Their export manager was on the road for 11 months out of the year. That is some serious dedication, right? But that's the level of commitment it takes when you decide to build your own markets from the ground up.
Okay, so with their export game now running strong, GI was ready for even bigger moves. But as they started looking at expanding into places like Asia, they hit a new problem. Just shipping tubs of ice cream all the way from Italy? Well, that just wasn't going to cut it anymore. They needed to start producing locally. And this marks another huge shift in their thinking. Instead of just selling a product, they started selling their process. For a market like Thailand, this turned out to be the perfect solution. They found a partner they could trust and basically handed them the keys to the ice cream kingdom.
This is what's known as a licensing agreement. Basically, GI taught a company in Thailand exactly how to make their ice cream, let them use the GI brand name, and in return, that Thai company paid GI a fee or a royalty. It's a really brilliant way to get your product made locally without you having to build the factory yourself.
Here's the thing, though. What works in one country might not work in another. And when GI set its sights on the absolutely enormous and way more complex market of China, they knew that a simple licensing deal just wasn't going to be enough. They needed a much deeper, more integrated partnership if they wanted to succeed there.
So their solution for China was a joint venture. Now, this is a whole different ballgame. It's way more than just sharing a recipe. It's literally starting a brand new company together. GI and their local Chinese partners shared everything: the ownership, the risks, and the rewards. They were true equals in the business.
So let's just look at the trade-offs here. The licensing deal in Thailand meant lower risk for GI, but it also meant they had less control. The joint venture in China, that was shared risk, but it also gave them shared control and priceless local knowledge. It just goes to show how they were smart enough to pick the right tool for each specific job.
And that joint venture was a massive success, so much so that after 5 years, GI was ready for the final step. They made a direct investment, which meant buying out their partner, building their own plants, and marketing the ice cream entirely themselves. Basically, they went all in on China.
So we've seen how GI expanded around the world, but what about the what? Like, what were they actually selling in all these different countries? This is where we get to their core philosophy, and what I think is the real secret to all their success.
So look, when a company goes international, it has a really big choice to make. Do you sell the exact same product everywhere, a global offering, or do you tweak your product for each market, which is local adaptation? GI, without a doubt, chose that second path.
And this quote from Gianna just captures their approach perfectly. It seems so simple, doesn't it? But realizing that some cultures prefer sweeter ice cream, that's a game changer. Instead of trying to force an Italian palate on the entire world, Gianni actually listened and adapted. And that's how they won over taste buds, one market at a time. All right, so after decades of these careful, strategic moves, from indirect exporting all the way to direct investment, all while adapting their product, what was the result of all this work? Well, let's take a look at the ice cream empire they built. Right here, you can see their entire journey laid out, step by step. It's just such a clear, logical progression. They start with low-risk exporting and move all the way to full investment. Each step just perfectly set them up for the next. It's really a masterclass in how to take a brand global. And the payoff for all that careful planning and hard work? It's this number, 120. GI ice cream is now sold and enjoyed in 120 countries. That is a truly global brand, and it all started in a small Italian shop.
So in the end, the whole story comes full circle. It all kicked off with just a few surprising orders from Scandinavia, and it ended with GI ice cream and freezers all over the planet. It's just an amazing testament to smart, patient, and adaptable growth. GI's journey really is a powerful blueprint for taking a product to the world stage. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? What's a local brand that you absolutely love, that you think has what it takes to be the next global sensation?